Andrew,
Okay, guys. Okay, officially,
good
let's
part.
start our meeting. The guest today is our friend Lorne, the man from Brookville, Canada, and he's giving us the pleasure to be here to talk about his life in Canada, and other experience. Okay, and Lorne is a friend of our group here in Santos, Brazil. He participated in some polyglotas meeting during some time, and so that's it. Lorne, could you introduce yourself for the guests? Talk about you, about your place, degree, life, and so on, please.
Yeah, I can try. And hopefully I'll be back to the meetings again next year. We'll see, but I'm hoping to get back down to Santos next winter,
Yeah.
next Canadian winter. Yeah, so actually, this town of Brockville is where I was born, but I moved to Kemptville, which is a much smaller town, about a half-hour drive from here, when I was like 3 months old. And then I lived there until I was, I guess, 45. Yeah, about 45. And then I moved back up here to Brockville again. Oh,
Where is the place? What the name of the city that you?
so yeah, that was it. Brockville, yeah, right in the center there.
Brookville here?
Yep,
Yeah, bro.
yeah, you can zoom in some more.
Yeah.
Which
Okay.
So,
stage are here? Is here? Is that?
which
Which
what?
stage?
Oh,
Which
Ontario.
stage?
Yeah,
Ontario.
Ontario.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
And if
Brookville.
you look across the river there, that's the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
I can walk about 3 blocks down to the water and I can look over to the United States. And any attempts to prevent smuggling between Canada and the US are almost impossible because
I think
there
Trump doesn't like this. Trump doesn't like this.
he doesn't like it, but I don't think he'd be able, all the military in the world would never stop it.
Yeah.
Um, in fact, if you look down a little bit to the south, there's a little town called Gananoque there. And I went to a restaurant once, and the waitress was from the United States. And we asked her, "Oh, that must be a difficult commute. You have to drive all the way down to Alexandria Bay and wait in line to cross the border. You have to like wait for immigration every day and then drive all the way back up to Gananoque. That must be really difficult." She said, "Oh no, I just come across the river on a jet ski. I don't go to the border." So she was
Yeah,
coming across from the US all the time to work in Canada.
yeah. But how do
Um,
you how do you do when you have to go if you want to go from Canada to Brooksville to United States? What's the way you use to cross the countries to cross
so
the
if
bro- the
to the
borders?
US,
Yeah, to
um,
the US.
with the map that we're looking at right now, there's 3 ways. If you can see a town called Ogdensburg that's just above Brockville, there is a
Uh-huh.
bridge there. Yeah, there's a bridge there. And that bridge is usually quiet because the highway is not so big on the other side. And
Uh-huh.
then if you go south, if you can see Ivy Lee or Alexandria Bay down at the bottom of the map, there's a bridge there.
Okay, Alexandra Bay here.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that one's busier. And if you go south more, you can see Kingston or southwest. It's not quite on the screen anymore. It's down in the lower left corner. There's King.
Okay. Uh-huh. Uh,
Yeah, Kingston is just barely on it. There, it's on the screen now. So from Kingston, you can take a ferry to that island and then drive across the island and take
uh-huh.
a ferry at Cape Vincent. Um, and actually, we had a tourist take the ferry at Cape Vincent with a rented car. Uh, maybe 5 years ago, and they did not know about standard cars. They had not driven standard cars very much. They were used to driving automatic, and they didn't know that you have to put the parking brake on when you stop a standard car. And the car rolled off of the ferry and fell into the lake.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that this is a city full of boats and according to the pictures, you can see them.
Yeah. So
How many people live in Brazil?
20,000 people. So about the same as Aquaplay.
Uh,
Real,
okay.
real. You live in a complete of
Yeah. It
population,
seems to.
same population.
Yeah, a whole
Yeah.
city by Canadian
Okay.
terms. So yeah, this is one of the most populated areas in Canada, and waterfront is always at a premium. So all the way from Toronto to Montreal, every town you go to will have many boats parked in the town. And actually, if you want to park a large boat, like 40 feet, you will have trouble finding anywhere between Toronto and Montreal. You will have trouble finding a place to park it because there's always
Yeah.
demand for more boat parking, and nobody's building more marinas because all the land has been gobbled up and there's environmental restrictions and everything. So yeah, this strip of water probably has more boats than anywhere else in Canada.
Yeah. But Brookville seems to be a very calm city. Yeah, full of green.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
It is one of the slowest growing cities in the whole region. It doesn't have a great reputation. It's it's very much a retirement city. So usually when people do come here, it's to retire. So that's, yeah, a very calm aspect. But also it means the city's not very vibrant. There's not, I'm particularly by Brazilian standards, like Canada is a very boring country to start with. And Brockville is a very boring city in a very boring country. So yeah, if you go to any crosswalk here, everybody will stop their car regardless of if you want to cross or not. And but it has nice aspects too. If you ever want to talk to somebody, you just go outside and walk around and somebody will want to talk to you, and you could probably spend all day talking every day if you wanted. On the other hand, I spent an hour and a half last year talking to a guy who had dementia. So he told me the same story 4 times in an hour and a half. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's still nice.
Yeah. Do you think that this kind the kind of dementia that the guy had is because drugs or because he has some birth problem?
I think it was mostly age related, or you could say birth problem. He didn't strike me as the type, well, you never know in Canada, but he didn't strike me as the type who probably did a lot of drugs because he was an engineer, and drugs usually tend to be less popular with engineers. And he had owned a lot of businesses. So no, I think it was just old age. He was quite old, I would say late 80s maybe, or 90s. So it's not that unusual here. People do get dementia.
Yeah. Okay, and Lorne, say people, what did you study? What is your degree? I don't know if you have ever studied in a university or school, or high school? How is what's your education?
So I did take an unconventional path. I did study 2 years of architecture in a community college, which I guess in Brazil would be more like a trade school than university. I'm not really sure. But then I never used it at all because I was very lucky. When I was 13 years old, my parents bought a computer and I was obsessed with the computer. I learned how to write software when I was 13. When I was in high school, I got a summer job writing software for a company in town. So after I finished my architecture degree, I kind of randomly got a job at a manufacturing place. Oh, because I knew how to solder, because my brother was a geek and we did little wiring projects. So very quickly from there, because I understood computers, I got moved into the robotics group, maintaining the robotics. And then from there, I went to more advanced things, process engineering, and then electromagnetic compatibility testing and some research and development. And then finally, in the last 10 years, I did software full time. So I was always working in IT or in technology, and I was almost always working in areas where there were no university degrees really. Um, like I said, I was working on robotics 40 years ago, and you could not go to school and take a robotics course at that time because it was kind of a new thing. And then, of course, the R&D stuff, I guess you can go to university to learn how to be a scientist, but aside from that, there is no real research for research or no real education for research and development because you're always learning all the time and you're always creating new things.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, the software at the end, I guess you can take a course for that, but software is a very unique field. My understanding is that 50% of software engineers are self-taught. And I certainly did do hiring. Actually, I started doing hiring even in my 20s at the manufacturing place. But in the later years, when I was doing hiring for software, I would not really care what education somebody had. I would ask, what are you working on the side? Like, what side projects are you doing? And if they had a project that they were doing on their own and they were excited about it and they could tell me about it and their eyes lit up, then I would be very interested in hiring them. I think, how would I describe that? I think just because the basics of software, it's really not that complicated. Software, I don't think software is difficult or requires intelligence. It's something that requires patience and interest. So if someone is passionate, if they have passion and they're really interested and they love being in that space of just coding for hours and hours and days, they're going to be an asset to the team for sure.
Yeah. And did you use your knowledge in software as an architect?
No, I never really did anything with architecture after I finished the school. I guess I had a summer job doing drafting architecture, but that was before I went to school. And then after school, no, I never used it again.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Do you have siblings, Lorne?
Yeah, I have one brother who I was very close with after my divorce up until COVID. And then we don't see each other so much now, but we're hoping to see each other in 2 weeks. And I have a sister who's not a blood sister. She was a friend of my brother's in university, and then she got sick and she moved in with my brother and his wife. in their 20s just for a year or two. And she still has, that was 30 years ago, and she still has a room at my brother's house.
Yeah.
She does have her own house now, but she still keeps a room at my brother's house. So she's, yeah, I do consider her a sister. And I see her very often because her house is actually here in Brockville also. Her room with my brother and his wife is up in Ottawa, which is about an hour drive from here. But she's usually here because she works from home now. A lot of people work from home here
Yeah.
now.
Do you have some other relatives, like nephews, in your family? Your brother, you have your brother, he's a parent, he's a father, sorry.
Yeah, my brother is a father, so he has two nieces, which I do see them sometimes, but much less now because they're in university and they don't really have time for family so much. And one of them lives 8 hours from here now, so she's not home very much. Other than that, I just have adopted family. I have a friend in Australia who I met in Japan who adopted me as the cool dad that she never had. But I don't see her too often either. Yeah, that's
great.
about it. Well, some aunts and uncles, but yeah, I see them sometimes. Most of my family is in this area.
Yeah. And when do you intend to move from Brockville? Because you complain a little bit about the place. Do you intend to move from Brockville to move in Toronto, for example?
Oh,
Because Toronto is a
no.
very busy city, a very crowded city. And what's your plan?
No, I don't have any intention of moving. Um, I have, so the big reason that that people move to Brockville is because it has a low cost of living. So I have a very cheap place here. I can be away traveling for 6 months of the year and not really worry about the fact that I'm paying for an apartment at home because it's a cheap apartment. And I have a good support network here. I have people who look after things for me and friends here. So I would not leave Brockville unless it was to move to Brazil permanently. But yeah, it's all
But
right.
do you get to work remotely, or do you have, or are you wealth enough to spend your money for some time?
I would not say that I am wealthy. I do have a few rental properties here in Brockville,
Uh-huh.
and uh, I I really don't spend money. So my rental properties bring less than the average Canadian income, but I can do everything that I want on much less than the average Canadian
Uh-huh.
income. So yeah, I've always been a cheap bastard.
Uh-huh. And
Ah,
how do you do to have your foods and to have your meals? What how do you do? Do you do it by yourself? Do you prepare a breakfast, lunch, and dinner? How is your life in this aspect?
so that's another example of why I don't need a lot of money because both in Brazil and in Canada, many people use like Uber Eats or iFood or DoorDash, or they go to restaurants. And I probably in Canada go to a restaurant maybe 3 times per year. So I always cook my own food and I always choose cheap groceries. I never buy expensive groceries. So my cost of groceries is less than most of my friends, or my cost of eating is less than
Uh,
most of my friends in any country, regardless
yeah.
of. So yeah, I save a lot of money there.
And do you have the possibility to eat vegetables, green? and or you just eat foods that are, I don't know if you can call, if I can call that processed foods. And what the kind of food that you prepare for yourself, that you have for yourself?
So I do buy some processed foods sometimes, but that's more expensive. So I do a lot of casseroles, casseroles. I guess that's not a common word. Like
Uh,
baked mixes of food. Like you might have rice and a little bit of meat and some peppers, and then you would fry it and stir it all up. And that's a casserole and bake it in the oven. Or maybe making a chili from scratch, or
uh,
making tacos or quesadillas. I do eat a lot of cheese, but I usually buy it when it is on sale, so that saves money. And
uh,
a lot of wheat products, which I think is quite common here. So you
uh,
can buy like breads and buns and other wheat products quite cheaply.
okay. I have some more questions. And Leandro, Tassio, you're free to ask to
I have
get
one
some
question.
question.
I have one question about your brother. He has a room to your sister, uh, but you don't have a room in your brother's place.
I do not know. Um,
Oh, it's unbelievable.
so that only happened because she was sick and she could not work for I think a full year. So she had no other choice but to find someone who was willing to let her live at the house. And then after she got better and started working again, she started paying him rent. And then they just kept that arrangement for like 30 years. I think she enjoyed it too because she never had children. So she enjoyed interacting with my brother's children. And she's still more in touch with them than I am. So I think it was a good experience for everybody, actually. Oh, and my brother once said having Tracy living in the house prevented us from getting a divorce because we had to be civilized to each other. Like they couldn't have big fights because they're like, no, Tracy will hear us. We can't fight.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I have a question about your adventure in Australia with
Ah,
bicycle.
mhm.
Tell us about it.
Oh, the
How
whole
many
thing?
kilometers did you went through
Did you
Australia
ride
to the desert?
I think it was about 14,000 kilometers, maybe somewhere between
14,000?
10 and I think
Oh, come
so.
on, guy.
14,000.
I could look it up, but yeah, I think it was somewhere around there.
14,000
But
coming
yeah,
here in Brazil. You come from south to the northeast and half and come back half of the way. Yeah, it's it's a
yeah,
long distance. Yeah.
yeah. Well, it was the perimeter of Australia, and Australia is getting close to as big as Brazil, isn't it? Isn't Australia
Yeah,
like
yeah,
75% the size of Brazil?
yeah, yes,
So,
close.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so I guess that
Yeah,
adds up. Um,
but yeah,
but yeah, that was after my divorce, and I was having a midlife crisis. Is that a common phrase in Brazil? Midlife
Yeah.
crisis?
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, it's the same.
Okay. Yeah. So,
Around the
and I had
40s.
in the 40s, actually, yeah, I
Yeah.
was exactly 40 when I got divorced. But yeah, and I had always wanted to do it because when I was young, I read a National Geographic story about someone who cycled around Australia, and I thought that was the most amazing thing I had ever heard. And I didn't know if I could do it. It was very intimidating. So I quit my job and I just bought a cheap bicycle. I think it was 100. So that would have been about 300 reais bicycle at the time, and started in Sydney and then just followed the coast past Adelaide all the way over to Perth. I think somewhere around Perth, the bicycle exploded and I had to buy a different bicycle. But again, I just bought a cheap one and then continued around to the top. And the only place where I wasn't on the coast was from Darwin. I had to go straight down to, yeah, I guess around Cloncurry and then across, because there was no paved road at the top there. So I had to go inland. But yeah, I loved it. The East Coast is very busy. There's a lot of big cities, and the road is not that big. So that part was difficult. It was like heavy traffic all the time, not easy to find places to camp. But the whole rest of the country, there were days when I only saw like 5 cars in the whole day. Oh, also, it was summertime, which meant it was hot, and most people don't travel in the summertime in Australia. So the highways were the quietest that they ever are. And at night, sometimes I would go to sleep beside the road and I would hear a car at 8 o'clock at night. And then there would be no other cars until sun up the next morning. So I really loved being out far away from everybody, far away from everything. Sometimes you wouldn't see any houses or even power poles. In the Northwest, each town will have a small generator for the town, and then there won't be any power distribution until the next town. So it was a really.
Did you find any kangaroo in your way?
I did
don't know
see.
if I think that kangaroo is not common on the coast.
Oh, not on the coast, no.
Yeah, I think it's more in the middle, in the middle of Australia, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I think
where did you stay, Leandro, in Australia? Where did you stay when you went there?
In Brisbane.
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 The
Okay.
famous Sunshine Coast.
Yeah. And Gold Coast too.
Gold Coast, that's it, right?
Yeah, but I was living in Brisbane, but I went to Gold Coast.
Nice.
Oh, great. So you took the bike, Lorne, in Sydney and went up to the coast by the coast. Yeah.
Actually, I started by going down. So I went
Okay.
clockwise around the country, which people told me was a mistake because apparently the wind is better if you go the other direction. But it was all right. Actually, when you were talking about Brisbane, that was my most difficult city to cycle through because the other cities, either you can go around and take a ferry, like in Melbourne, or it's smaller cities. But in Brisbane, I actually slept behind a guardrail in the city. And I also slept in a park in the city because I was just cycling through the city. Like it's just such a big city. So that was a difficult one for cycling.
Okay. And okay, let's change subject. What about your hobbies? What have you been doing lately?
I brought show and tell, doing pottery,
What
ceramics.
is that?
I've been doing pottery, ceramics.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is actually a COVID thing because when I was during COVID, I was kind of bored at home and listening to podcasts. and I listened to a podcast about ceramics and pottery, and I thought, oh, that actually sounds quite interesting. I should try that. And then a few years later, I found a school in Ottawa. So I took a 1-week course and I really enjoyed it. I've always loved making things, and I found it a much easier medium than working with steel or wood. And then I took another course in between, and then last year, I got I just finished one thing, and then I had some free time, and I got an email from someone here who was running a school, and I took a 1-week course, and then I found out that they had a collective. So now I pay a monthly fee to use a studio that has all like lots and lots of good equipment and glazes and tools. It's a very well supplied studio. So I try to go there 2 times a week, and I've just been making so much stuff. And just this week, actually, I ran into somebody who owns a store, and they said they wouldn't mind taking some of it. So we're going to see how that goes. I do have to find a way to get rid of it, or I will have to stop doing it because.
But do you intend to sell your products, your how can you call your souvenirs, your
You could say, do you intend to sell your stuff, or do you intend to sell your pottery, or but yeah, if I can find someone who's willing to take it, I'll definitely do that. I was actually thinking of talking to my friend in Ubatuba, because she has a tourism business, and she knows, she does souvenirs, actually, Ubatuba souvenirs. So she knows every store in Ubatuba. So I was thinking of asking her if there was a store that would want some, but I think shipping it to Brazil would be very difficult. It's all very heavy, so shipping it would be, and it's heavy and it's breakable. And then there's probably duty to pay, so it'd be much easier if I can find someone here in Brockville who wants to sell it. So hopefully.
You can bring when you come back to Brazil and live with them to sell. Maybe. You can write Ubatuba. I love Ubatuba.
Yes.
Souvenir from Ubatuba.
Yeah.
I love Brookville too, can be, because people sometimes like to, But I have a big curiosity about your trips, because I know that you have already traveled a lot. And how many countries have you already visited in your life since you started to travel?
Sure. I think it's around 55 or 60, maybe. I should add them up someday. 55 or 60, I think. I should add them up again sometime. I added them up quite a few years ago, but then I've gone a few places since then. But the funny thing is, there's still so many places that I want to go. I think you really could travel forever and never get bored. I've met some people, I've met some people who started traveling when they were teenagers and just kept traveling for decades and decades, either because they like work a little bit and then travel, and then work a little bit and then travel. Or I think I have met, I don't know if you have the phrase trust fund kids. So that's someone who has wealthy parents and they are born with a trust fund, which means they get a regular monthly income regardless of what they do. And they just travel forever. Nobody ever admits it, but I'm suspicious sometimes that some of the people I meet are trust fund kids.
I have a question for you, like a personal question. Do you think Brazil is the coolest country you ever been? Because
The
you come
coolest?
here a lot. Coolest country.
Yeah, it's the
Ooh.
coolest country for sure. It's my favorite country for sure. I sort of
Why? Because
consider it my second home.
the people probably, or the nature. What's your feeling about Brazil against other countries? Like
So yeah,
the
definitely
different.
definitely the people is a big part of it. I think because I started forming friendships with Brazilians, that was a big part of what kept me coming back. But I also, as far as nature things go, Brazil is very competitive. I think there's very few places where you can see things like Lençóis and Jericoacoara and Foz do Iguaçu are all really amazing. Well, and obviously the Amazon, there's nothing like that anywhere in the whole world.
Yeah.
Both the river and the rainforest, and the diversity of the country. In Canada, if you go to Brockville and then you go to another city on the opposite end of the country, everything looks exactly the same. The post office looks the same. The housing architecture looks the same. The streets are the same. With the signs are the same. In Brazil, you can go to one city and go to another city, and it's almost like you're in a different country. There's
Yeah.
so much diversity with the architecture, with the customs, with everything. It's a very unique country. Very interesting. Also, Brazil, it is so easy to get around because the bus infrastructure is amazing. Yeah, when we were talking about Brockville, when my parents were young, you could take a train from Brockville to Montreal or Toronto or even small towns like Westport for the day and then come home again at the end of the day. And now it's
Yeah.
impossible. If you live in Brockville, you must have a car because you can't even get, well, you can take a train to Toronto or Montreal, but there's only a few trains per day, and it's not great.
Yeah.
Actually,
And,
Brockville is better than most Canadian cities. Most Canadian cities don't have a train even. But yeah, in Brazil, you can go anywhere by bus, and you can take those amazingly comfortable sleeper buses at night. And once you get to a town, there's always an easy way to get from the bus station to where you're going. It's amazing for getting around.
what's your opinion about the infrastructure in Brazil for a tourist? I don't know if you have this kind of point of view, because you have already visited many different parts of Brazil. What's your opinion in terms of infrastructure? Do you think that the regions has a good or have a good structure to receive tourists? What do you think that's lacking here?
So I'm a unique type of tourist. There are many different tourists looking for many different things.
Yeah.
I think Brazil does have a good amount of hostels. You can find hostels in most cities. I feel like it's a little bit more expensive than a lot of other countries that I travel in for hostels. Um, and I think the hostels are a little bit quieter than some other countries that I travel in. But they're good, they're clean, they're lovely. Um, I think something that would bring a lot of North Americans to Brazil would be resorts. I have not run across a lot of resorts in Brazil.
Uh-huh.
But honestly, they are a curse. I don't think you want them. They just ruin everything. And I don't know that it would work so well just because the flight is so long. So if people want to fly to a resort from America, they want the shortest flight possible, which means they're going to fly to Cuba or to, I guess, Dominican Republic, Barbados, I can't remember. Venezuela was actually a popular resort destination for a
Yeah.
while, but I think now because there's more issues, that's not such a thing anymore. But
Yeah.
yeah.
But excluding Brazil, what country do you consider one of the as an unmissable place to go among the places that you have already visited? What will be your suggestion? Can be in Europe, can be in South America. What will be your suggestion of 2 or 3 countries to visit?
So you mean countries that are easy to travel in, or
Yeah, no, I think that a country that has impacted you the most.
oh, so my second favorite place after Brazil is Japan. And I've been there 3 times now, I think. And I do have one very close friend and a few other moderate friends there. And it's fascinating that Brazil and Japan are my favorites because they're very opposite in a lot of ways. I remember I was watching the making of a music video by a group called Clean Bandit, and they said we recorded this part of the video on the subway in Japan, and as soon as we put the music on to start dancing, everybody on the train started yelling at us. They were like, "Oh, you can't have music and noise on the subway car." And that's my experience when I'm there too. Everybody sits very quietly, and if a cell phone rings, the person takes their phone out into the chamber between the train cars to answer it because it's very impolite to talk out loud on your phone in the train. And
Yeah.
the same week that I watched that video, my friend from Rio sent me a video that she had taken on her subway on the way to work. And she said, every Thursday on this car, we do this. And there were people with drums and like guitars, and some people were dressed up, and they were literally having like a samba party, I guess, on the train every week. And I thought it's completely opposite, but I love both cultures. They
Yeah.
both have their unique things.
When the last time that you went to Japan, did you use a translator to communicate with people, or wasn't necessary? Or do you know how to speak
I
Japanese?
No, Japanese is very difficult, and I've never
Yeah.
tried. Um, so yeah, the last time I was there, I was actually working in a ski shop, which was ridiculous because I don't speak any Japanese. So I did use a translator a little bit for that, but just for regular getting around, um, usually I just use charades or yeah, like pointing at things in books and things like that.
Uh,
Um, I don't remember. I mean, it's possible that I use the translator for other things because it's so common now. But
yeah.
the first 2 times I was in Japan, we did not have cell phones, so I did not have a
Okay.
translator. So yeah, just charades and
Yeah.
motioning and yeah.
I don't know because I'm asked this not just because Japan, because as people know, I'm going to Italy, and you went to. I'm not sure if the translator, the cell phone, will be helpful in there. I'm trying to learn some basic words like how to compliment, how to say goodbye, ask a favor, and things like that. But I think that I don't know if it will be safe and good using a cell phone to understand everything. Yeah. So let's see what's gonna happen. It's my curiosity because the first time that I go to a country that I don't speak the language of the country. Okay, when I was in Argentina, I didn't speak Spanish and I have to make me understandable. But I think that was another situation. Let's see what's happened in Italy. Okay, but after Japan, what country do you suggest us to visit if you want?
One of my favorite countries was Kazakhstan, and I would say it's because it's less developed, so the nature is really quite yeah, undisturbed. And I was bicycling there, and they have very good roads and very little traffic. And the traffic
Yeah.
that they do have drives fairly slow. So it's a really good place for cycling. Um, Also, they still have some wild animals. So I saw camels walking beside the road and on the road, and I saw what I don't know if they were wild, but I saw horses roaming freely around, and some other animals. Also, I don't know this for sure, but I felt like it was very accepted to just pitch your tent beside the road and sleep there. Australia is similar in that way. It's socially acceptable to just put up your tent beside, well, not in the east, but in all of the outback, it's very socially acceptable to just camp anywhere. Whereas in Europe, it's illegal. You're not allowed to do that, so you really have to hide if you're going to do it. Um, what else did I like? Well, I also liked Kazakhstan because it was culturally very different. Like it's very similar to Russia. There's a lot of Russian speaking. Um, and the
What's the
architecture.
language that people speak in Kazakhstan?
It's
What's the
there's a lot of Russian. I used Russian when I was using my translator. I think there's other dialects and other languages, but I think Russian is the one that sort of ties everybody together, maybe.
Yeah. Do you think in terms in cultural terms, do you believe that's a good it's a good experience these countries of the West like Russia and other countries? And another question is, have you ever been to Dubai?
Ah, I was just talking about Dubai yesterday. No, I have not been to Dubai. It is kind of on my list, but there's other places like the Azores is higher on my list. I've always wanted to go to the Azores. Um, I had a friend who went to Dubai and she really enjoyed it. I think she said it was expensive. But yeah, it could be interesting.
Yeah.
All I know about Dubai is really tall skyscrapers, which is not so not
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
interesting to me, but yeah.
I think that you know that one of the last meeting that you have in English Brazil, there was a guy from Dubai. Well, he is originally from Iraq, yeah, Iraq, and
Oh, from
but
Iraq, yeah.
he's living in Dubai. It's a long history, and but anyway, he told about the apartment building that Neymar bought, the player, okay, the soccer player. Neymar
Oh,
bought in
okay, yeah.
Dubai. It pays 50, 50 million dollars for the apartment. And he's supposed to sell it at the end of the construction, at the end of the building in 2 years for 90, almost 80, 90 million dollars. Yeah.
Okay,
So
yeah.
yeah, so he was really proud about the percent of commission that the brokers receive in this kind of sale. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that make me impressed. But he's he intend to live the rest of his life, and he is 29 years old. He said that he intends
Mm.
to live the rest of his life there, and
Mm.
yeah, but a place where just really wealth people lives there, like some famous artists, some politicians, like Trump, other that singer. It's uh, oh, I forgot her name. Yeah, but
Taylor
sorry,
Taylor Swift?
I don't know. No, it's not Taylor Swift. It's a Latin one, and yeah. But anyway, I think that it's a place where you don't pay too much tax because the
Okay.
oil, yeah,
Yeah.
because the oil, and
Yeah.
all the government sponsor many expense of people of the population, so they have a really high standard of life there. And the guy, it was a surprise for me, and I became interested in visit this place. Maybe who knows, after Italy, visiting Dubai. Okay,
Yeah.
after Brookville, I'm going to visit Dubai.
Yeah. Yeah. Brockville is the opposite of Dubai. We actually had a plan to build 3 big apartment towers at the waterfront, and they built one big tower, and it took years to sell all the units in it, and they never built the other 2. So you will not,
I can imagine.
yeah, so you
I
will
think that
not buy
Brookville is
something
not the
and sell
place
it
for
tomorrow.
that. Yeah.
No.
I think that's not it's not appropriate to live in an apartment in a place like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a marketing mistake. A marketing mistake. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Oh.
Brookville, how is the nightlife in Brookville?
There's none at all. Not even.
There is no.
I think the bars close at like 9 or 10 at night, and there's probably only 2 bars, maybe. I've never even been to a bar here.
Yeah. So invite Leandro to prepare another barbecue for us. I think that's
Yeah,
that's an opportunity. Yeah.
that would be the biggest nightlife in the whole town.
Leandro, we
Oh.
need to open some night bar in Brookville. They don't have
Yeah, good idea,
anyone.
good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A dancing club. Yeah, maybe.
dancing
Yeah,
club
Yeah.
Yeah.
and other things too.
Yeah.
Okay, Lorne. Thank you very much for having us, and it was a nice meeting. And it's a pity that some people didn't get to reach to participate today, but they are going to see the meeting on YouTube. And thank you very much for your time, and thank you, Tassio, and Leandro too. And I hope you have a very good weekend. Okay. So see you.
Thank you. See you
Bye
later.
bye.
thank
See you.
you,
Bye. See you.
guys.
Bye
Thank you,
bye.
Lorne. Miss
Yeah,
you,
Bye.
Renato. Have a
Good to
good
see you.
see
trip.
you. You
Thank you
too.
very
Good
much.
weekend for us.
Yeah.